Hello, this is TK Coleman, the Education Director for Praxis, and starting tonight, we begin a series of webinars on professional development. And tonight's talk will be on tips for nailing job, internship, or program applications. And our speaker for tonight will be Praxis CEO and founder, Isaac Morehouse. Isaac Morehouse has managed professional development fellowships. He's reviewed thousands of applications in the last decade. So tonight, he's going to talk to you about what you need to think about, the questions you need to ask, and the things you need to understand if you're trying to get a job, trying to get an internship, or trying to get into any professional development program. So feel free to send us questions. If things pop in your head while Isaac is talking, just go ahead and send us the questions, and we'll make sure we take some time to get to as many as possible. But without further ado, here's Isaac Morehouse.
Thank you, TK. I appreciate it. Welcome, everybody. So before I get into, and I'm going to kind of break this into 5 do's and 5 don'ts for applications. But before I get into the do's and don'ts for an application, I want to make clear that far more important than knowing how to appear like a good candidate on an application is actually becoming someone who is a good candidate. So, you need to become the person that you need to be, that you want to be, the best version of yourself, if you will, and really become a candidate worthy of consideration for jobs, internships, programs, anything that you are applying for. That should always take precedence. So I wouldn't want you to sort of see it as, hey, I need to learn the best practices and tips to kind of game the system and appear as someone that's a good fit for this. First and foremost, become a person who's a good fit for that. That's always more important. The rest of the stuff that we're going to talk about tonight is when you are that person, when you are a good fit and you know it, and you know that you would nail it in that role, then you can work on making that communication process, communicating that, and finding little ways to make sure that that doesn't get lost. Because though it's far more important to be the kind of person who's a good fit, that alone doesn't guarantee that people will just find you and notice you if your application doesn't kind of stand out in some way, or if it falls prey to some of the problems that we're going to talk about. So with that, I'm going to do 5 do's and 5 don'ts, as I mentioned, for applications in general. And again, this is only about applications. So as we continue with this webinar series over coming months, we're going to do some on resumes specifically. We're going to do some on interviews specifically. But tonight we're only going to focus on applications, so sort of formal forms that you have to fill out for various programs, questions that they ask as that first step to get in the door. Okay, we're going to start with the don'ts. Why not? Let's get the don'ts out of the way first and then talk about the do's. Don't number 1, don't email to ask questions that are already answered on the website, in the FAQ, on the application itself. It sets you back from the get-go. When you get an email as somebody who's reviewing applications or determining acceptance into programs, jobs, etc., an email that says, hey, where's the program located? Hey, what's the start date? Anything that's already answered on the website, that signals right away, this is someone who's lazy and didn't even take the time to go get answers to questions that were already answered. So don't do that. Before you send off an email with a question to a company or a program that you're applying to, be sure that it's not something that's answered somewhere else. At least do that much to signal that you're serious and you didn't just sort of, I don't want to look at the website, I'll just shoot this email off. Don't number 2. Don't ask for permission to apply. It's amazing how many people do this. Hey, I'm an X. Can I apply to this program? Right? Hey, I'm a who knows what, a student studying this. Or hey, I'm interested in this. Can I apply? Hey, I might be in France for 3 months. Can I apply? Hey, I'm not sure, when I will know about X, Y, and Z. Can I apply? Those types of questions, it's sort of like you're waiting for permission to apply. And again, if you see the website, you see the description of what the program or the job or the internship is all about, and it fits you, even though it doesn't describe the exact details of your life, even though the website doesn't say, even if you have 2 other potential options and you won't know about them for 2 weeks, you can still apply. It's not going to lay out everything, but just apply. Just get in the application anyway. You don't need permission to apply. Even if you're unclear whether or not you're qualified, you'll find that out in the application process itself. It sort of sends a signal that you're kind of a fearful, risk-averse person when you ask and you're sort of, hey, I know that people generally like me can apply to this program, but can people in my exact circumstances apply? That kind of sends a signal to the person reviewing those. Okay, this is someone who needs way too much detail, way too much hand-holding. That kind of gives you negative points to get right off the bat. So don't ask for permission to apply. Number 3, don't say, I'm going to apply. Don't tell people you're going to apply. Just do it. And I'll tell you why. I think this is really important. You've heard probably countless times that in business and in life in general, you ought to under-promise and over-deliver. And I think we all sort of accept that as a truism, but it's far more important than most of us realize, and it has a very powerful impact. So for example, I do a lot of speaking, and then everyone on the Praxis team, we all have been familiar with this scenario. We're at an event, we're at a hackathon or a conference of some kind, and we give a talk about entrepreneurship or something, and we mention the Praxis program, and afterwards someone comes up and they're asking questions and they're really interested, and they say, wow, that's a great program. I'm going to apply. I'm really excited. I'm going to get in an application. And so then we go back and we talk. Yeah, I met this one guy. His name was Jim. He's from Wisconsin. He was super excited. He said he was going to apply. The minute that I have heard I'm going to apply, every hour that goes by after that where an application doesn't come in, it tends to dock points from that person in my mind, right? Even if subconsciously, and it's not like I'm, monitoring applications every minute literally, but if I check in a couple days later, say, hey, did Jim from Wisconsin ever apply? He said he was a really great candidate. Nope, hasn't applied. Now it makes you look like someone and under-delivers. There's no need to say that. Saying things like, hey, I'm interested in applying. Hey, yeah, I think I might apply. Yeah, this program looks really cool. You can expect to see an application from me. It does nothing for you good. It doesn't earn you any points or make you appear better as an applicant, but it immediately sets a timeline ticking. And who knows what's happening with Jim in Wisconsin. Maybe he had a family emergency. Very overused phrase, by the way. Don't recommend using it unless literally a member of your close family dies. Maybe his plane was stuck and his phone battery died and he didn't get home for 3 days and couldn't access a computer. Who knows what? But I can't know that, and all I know is that someone said I'm going to apply, and then it took them a while to do it. And that makes me feel like this might be a wishy-washy person. So don't say you're going to apply. Just do it. Do it, and then someone says, hey, I had a great conversation with this guy. I think he might have been interested. I'm not sure. Oh, he was interested. He applied 2 days later. Wow, that's quick. That's great, right? Suddenly 2 days looks like a quick response time versus if he said I'm going to apply and then waited 2 days, then it doesn't look so quick. So number 4. Don't ask questions until after you've applied. Now, I don't mean this as in any questions at all. Now, again, we've already sort of touched on, obviously, don't ask questions that can be answered on the website. Don't ask permission to apply if it's clear that, you can apply. But I mean really specific questions. I get this sometimes. I've seen this in a lot of different programs or even jobs that I've, reviewed applications for, where someone starts asking a lot of questions that will only really apply if they get to, let's say, the finalist stage, or even if they get a job offer or an internship offer. They'll ask questions like, hey, when the program starts, the opening event occurs on X date. It's possible that my brother-in-law will be getting married on that date. Is there any flexibility there? And the first thing you do as someone receiving an inquiry like that is look to see if this person has applied. If they haven't even applied, again, it's signaling they want every question answered, and they want access to you. They want to eat up your time before they've even signaled any level of commitment at all. This may be someone that doesn't end up applying. And so it doesn't to be a good time manager, if you're reviewing hundreds of applications or thousands, whatever it may be, you don't want to spend your time answering questions to people who you're not even sure of their seriousness. So just getting in an application is a signal. It kind of purchases you a little bit of additional credibility that now allows you to reach out and maybe ask an additional question that is an important question that's relevant to the program. But the first thing they're going to do when you ask those types of questions is see, did this person apply? Well, if they didn't even take the time to apply, I can't be sure if I should be spending time with them. Okay, don't number 5. And this is a challenging one. Don't only sell your skills. What do I mean by that? Isn't the point of an application to sell your skills and your qualifications? Far too often, and you see this a lot in cover letters, resumes as well, but in applications, I am a professional, individual with excellent communication skills who brings a wealth of knowledge of X, Y, and Z to the table that will benefit you, et cetera, et cetera. And chances are, whatever you're applying for it because it will be a step up of some kind, a challenge of some kind. Yes, you are going to have to bring things to the table and be qualified, but you're doing it not because, hey, I could do this in my sleep, but because you have enough of the raw material and you want something that's going to push you and challenge you further. And often it comes off as, hey, if you hire me, if you accept me into your program, it's going to be no problem for me. This stuff is easy. I can do everything. I'm exactly what you're looking for. Don't even worry about it. And there's something about that kind of feels like, well, then why are you even applying? But additionally, it's lacking something really important. When you're looking at hiring someone for a job, for example, whoever is doing that hiring, they care very deeply about the company and the role that they're hiring for. They care very deeply about the position. The same with programs, internships. And if someone only says, I can do X, Y, and Z, that could apply to 50 different things that they're applying to. That could be relevant to all of those things. But if they never say, here's what I want to learn from you, here's what I love about you in particular, your program, your job, here's what I want to gain, here's what I think, where I think I would be challenged, then it doesn't connect with me that well. I mean, imagine, if you're on the dating scene and you meet someone for the first time, you find them on Tinder or something, and you go to coffee and they say, here are the 5 reasons that I think I'm somebody you should date. It's a little off-putting, I suspect, right? That they may want those things to come out during the conversation, and they may say, hey, we share an interest in X, Y, and Z. But you'll also want them to demonstrate that they find something uniquely interesting about you, and there's a reason they want to share those particular traits with you in particular, you specifically, rather than just sort of, blasting a dating resume. So it's not only about selling your skills, it's about doing it in a way that shows, yeah, I think I have what it takes, but I'm also really interested in this opportunity specifically, and showing that you can demonstrate that you know how to create value, not just I'm professional, I have good communication skills, I have the following, but I've done the following things, and demonstrating I'm the type of person who creates value, therefore I want to create value for you in this program, in this job, you specifically. Okay, now let's get to the do's. Do number 1, the most basic of all, probably the most overlooked of all, or the one that's the most frequently violated. Do spell check, grammar check, format check. Have consistent formatting, whether you're using bullet, spacing, whatever. The little details are amazing, and it's amazing how often even really good candidates overlook this. I mean, the number of times people will fail to capitalize their own name, or capitalize the first letter in their 2-letter state abbreviation when completing their address, but not the second letter, or have run-on sentences, or formatting where it's an essay question and there's no paragraph breaks or spacing. It's awful, and it signals that this person doesn't have an attention to detail. And this is the thing about applications, and again, they're very limiting, but their purpose is only to get you to the next step. You're not going to get any kind of fellowship or internship or program from an application alone. You could only lose it from an application, right? You can't gain it, you can only lose it. Applications are to eliminate people from the pool, not to put them in the yes pool, just to put them in the no pool. So anyone that's not in the no pool gets to move on further down the line. So it's really just to say, I pass a minimum threshold of qualifications and interest in this role that should move me to the next stage. So because of that, you have this fine line where you really want to demonstrate you know how to follow instructions, you know how to pay attention to detail, but at the same time, you want to show that you're someone who's interesting, who's out of the box, who's different, who's creative, who's not only a rule follower, right? You want to show that you can pay attention to details when it matters, but you're more than that. So it's that kind of fine line. But things like this, spelling, grammar, so important, especially when people are reading through hundreds or thousands of applications. They're looking for an excuse to put you in the reject pile, just to trim down their workload. So they're looking for quick, easy ways to say, I can eliminate this person. And if you give them those ways, they will jump on them. So this is the first and easiest way to make a cut. Okay, bunch of spelling errors, get this person out of here. What I recommend to reduce and eliminate these things, and again, I know a lot of people are doing these on their phones, they're used to using text message language, all that stuff's fine, but on an application, it's a context where it really matters. But what I recommend is, if the application itself is not in a web browser or a format that automatically has spell check, some are, some aren't, put it into Word or something, type out your answers in Word or a program that has spell check, and get the spelling and grammar right. But don't paste it from Word into the application, because then you'll probably have formatting problems. So then do another step where you paste it, once it's been all spell checked, into something like Notepad that cleans all formatting off, and then you can put your spacing how you want it. Then it's ready to go in, whether it's HTML or whatever is being used. And again, depending upon the application, these are all different, but that's why it's really important to make sure it's all cleared of that formatting and weird spacing. Put it in there. If you can ever upload a file, with questions or essays or anything like that, always do a PDF so that the formatting looks correct. Really basic stuff. Okay, do number 2. Apply in the moment. Apply in the moment of inspiration. Now, I know a lot of people will say, hey, especially if it's a longer application or if it's something that's a really big deal and a big commitment, I want to really take time and think about it and go back to my application and tweak it all the time. And again, if it's long, it may take you time, and you may have to save it and go back and finish it later before you submit it. But I would highly encourage you, when you are the most inspired and the most interested in the opportunity, that's when you want to apply. Why? There's no downside. There's no downside. Because if you say, oh, I was all excited about this thing, and then a week later, I got another opportunity, I found out, now I'm not that excited about it. Who cares? Because an application is not a commitment. You're not saying, and I agree to do this if I get accepted. In most cases, I mean, there are some rare cases where maybe it is, and you want to be a little bit more considerate about that. But it's just throwing another option out there, and your application will be so much better if it comes from true inspiration. I can tell when I read applications who did it after they discovered the program or the opportunity, got really fired up about it, did a little bit of research on it, maybe talked to 1 or 2 people, and then just immediately filled out an application and was like, this is amazing, versus someone who's been thinking about it for a long time, carefully crafted it. And even though the other might have a little bit better attention to detail, it lacks some of that genuine fire and passion for the position. So I always encourage people, keep your attention to detail there, be thoughtful, get your formatting, your spelling right, but apply in the moment of inspiration. Do it when you're fired up the most about the opportunity. Okay, number 3, do. Do apply to that specific opportunity, not to opportunity in general. And this is something I alluded to in the don'ts as well. Everyone is looking at a lot of options and applying for a lot of different things at once typically. That's fine. That's great. However, you don't want it to appear that you have a generic application. Now, I know colleges have something like a common application that goes out. Maybe that's fine in that context. But for most jobs, programs, internships, certainly for Praxis, we want to know that you're applying for Praxis, not just for opportunity in general, that you specifically, uniquely understand what this program is about, what this opportunity is about, and you have a reason that you're really excited about this specifically. And that's where, again, getting back to the don'ts, selling your skills too much kind of lacks the focus on, this is why I want to work for you, not this is why I'm a good worker in general. No. This is why I'm going to kick ass for you specifically. Here's how I've created value. Here's how I want to do it for you because I'm so fired up about what you do, about your mission. I want to be a part of that. This program stood out to me among all the others because it excites me for X, Y, and Z reason. That's why I want to do it. So make it specific to that opportunity. Tell whoever you're applying to how much you love them. Tell them why you love them. That really matters. Again, put yourself in that dating situation. You don't want someone to say, here's all the reasons I think it was a good decision for you to have coffee with me and why I think you ought to have coffee with me again because I have the following traits. You would rather have them say, hey, here's all the things that I was really interested in you about. And here's why I want to have coffee with you again. I'm really interested in you, right? Make it about them. Okay, do number 4. Do be unique. Now, within the context of the application, that's a challenge because, as we mentioned before, they're pre-formatted, they're fairly clear on what's desired, and there's not a whole lot of space for creativity most of the time. And getting those details right and following the basic instructions correctly is important. However, there's always some margin where you can be a little creative and a little different. Even as small as having a really cool, really unique LinkedIn profile when they're asking for a LinkedIn profile, or when they say website, you create a specific unique website just for that application, just a simple page that maybe even has a short video clip on it or a blurb or something that says, hey, I think I'm worth taking the time to take another step to interview me, here's why, etc. Find ways to sneak in differentiators, even if they're not sort of formally in the process. And you don't want to go overboard with it and just, like if there's no place to do anything like that, you don't want to email and say, oh, by the way, here's 5 other things that I wanted to send you and 15 videos and all this stuff and overwhelm. But find those little ways. I think making a 1-minute, 2-minute video about why you want the opportunity, even if it's not requested, and just putting a link in there if there's a field for sort of an open forum short answer or essay, I think that's huge. I think making a tailored, like I mentioned, website or resume or an infograph, the 5 reasons why this program is the best one for me, anything that can help you be unique, where you can kind of get it in there in a way that's still professional and not, and again, not overly taxing, and getting it in the application itself, not with a supplemental email. I think that's supplemental email is far more likely to probably irritate. Not always, but you have to be careful with those. Okay, number 5. Number 5, do send a follow-up, whether you are accepted or not. But I recommend only one. Don't be somebody who at every stage in the process is emailing every day, hey, what's the status, what's the status, what's the status? Now, I will say, I have had in my lifetime, for a couple programs I've run, somebody who was a good candidate, who was a finalist, and it was taking us a while to make a decision, and he literally emailed, and it was for something that involved writing skill. He literally emailed like every other day, here's another article. I just wanted to send along, thought you might enjoy it, look forward to hearing from you. Hey, hope your day's going well. Here's another article that I wrote the other day. Thought you'd enjoy it. Hope everything goes well. Look forward to hearing from you. And it was kind of annoying, but it was so clear to the point and like persistent that I actually ended up accepting him pretty much on that basis alone, and it worked out very well. So I will say, though I'm saying just one email follow-up, understand that these are general rules. There are occasions where you can get away with that. I've also had more than enough people email several times and just be annoying, and for that reason alone, I've rejected them. And well, this was a good applicant, but now they just won't shut the hell up, and they keep bugging me. And we've clearly laid out when they'll be hearing from us. So maybe that makes me a hypocrite. I don't know, but there's a way to there's a rare time where you can do it more than once. But do have one follow-up. And again, whether you're accepted or not, even if you're rejected, do a follow-up that says, hey, thank you for the opportunity to apply. I appreciate it. You can even request feedback. If you have any feedback for how I could have improved my application for the future or for other opportunities, I'd love to hear it. Many places might not give it to you. I've always tried really hard, and we try at Praxis to respond and give at least one actionable thing if we can. Say, hey, there's a lot of reasons. It's a very competitive program. I'm not saying this is the only thing, but you could improve your writing. I think that would help you stand out. We try to do that, but not everyone will. But it's worth asking. It's worth at least thanking someone. And if you get in, obviously, or if you get to the next step, a quick email. Thank you. I appreciate you taking the time. I'm really looking forward to this next step. I'm available anytime. I think that's really, really important. A lot of people where you kind of have buyer's remorse when you're on the hiring side or the accepting side. When you accept someone and they get the official acceptance and then you don't hear anything for like a week, it can make you start to be hesitant. And then even if they come on board, they're sort of starting in a deficit, and they have to kind of overcome that and prove to you that they're serious about it still. So even if you get accepted and you haven't decided for sure if you're going to take the opportunity that's been offered to you, don't wait until you've decided to respond. Email back immediately and say, thank you so much. This is great. I'm going to take a little bit of time to think about it. I have some other things going on. I really appreciate it. You should be hearing from me within X. Do respond right away. All right, so with that, I gave you 5 don'ts. I gave you 5 do's. And again, this is only for the application, so it's a relatively limited space we're talking about, but we will be going into more depth in some future webinars on things like interviews and resumes. So my goal was to get it in under 30 minutes. Looks like we're at 27 minutes, so I'm happy. Let's open it up to any questions that you might have, and we will just, TK will read those off, and I will try to answer them.
Okay, to ask a question, in the bottom right-hand corner of the viewing window, just click Ask a New Question, type in your question, and then click Submit, and we'll be more than happy to answer it. Isaac, I'll ask a question to lead things off while we wait for some of them to come in. One of the first things you talked about in your don'ts is you said don't use family emergency as an excuse. Can you expound on why that's a bad thing? And what if I actually have a family emergency? How should I word that?
Yeah, this is one of our personal pet peeves. Actually, it's been mine wherever I've been. When someone emails you and sorry it took me so long to get back, I had a family emergency, or hey, I've got a family emergency, can we reschedule the interview? The first thing that comes to mind, you sort of the first thing that comes to mind is this person screwed up somehow, and they know that the quickest, easiest way to cut off my ability to judge them negatively is to just say family emergency. Because then I'm the jerk if I say, well, that's not a good excuse, or if I doubt that or am skeptical. But I can't help but be skeptical because that's such an easy get out of jail free card. There's no evidence, there's nothing specific to it. It's just sort of, hey, I had a family emergency, you're going to have to let it slide. That really, I think, makes you look bad. Don't ever call something a family emergency, first of all, if it's not genuinely both family and emergency, otherwise it's just cheesy. If it actually is, then just say what it was. If you don't feel comfortable getting into all kinds of details, you can at least say, I greatly apologize. My dad's best friend got in a car accident, and we immediately went to the hospital. Don't get into all the details with you, but suffice to say, it was quite a traumatic experience. I'm sorry. Now I know, and now I actually sympathize with you. But if it's just this vague sort of family emergency, not only am I skeptical of it maybe being real, whether that's fair or not, but I also immediately think this is the type of person that's going to utilize this kind of generic blanket excuse or reason to get out of things. That reflects poorly for the future as well. Be upfront and be clear about it. There are genuine family emergencies. I mean, I've had them. Everyone has. Just tell the person what it is.
Okay, so we have a question in here. How do you suggest one works a career fair, especially as an international student? Companies are kind of hesitant to hire international students even for internships.
Yeah, I mean, and that is definitely a challenge, and I feel for you so much, being an international student, because unfortunately there are a lot of barriers that really are out of many companies' controls, that many companies control, that make it essentially more costly for them to bring on international people, both in terms of time, money, risk, etc. So you're definitely fighting an uphill battle. What are some things you can do? I think the main thing is to acknowledge up front and say, hey, look, I get it. I'm an international student. I understand that's more inconvenient. That comes with additional regulations and whatever. I want you to know I am committed. I love what you do. I'll do what it takes. I've already researched what it takes for me to get here, the visa requirements. All I need from you is X, Y, and Z if you bring me on. Like, just give me a chance. If you take a look at me and I'm no better than your, domestic, my domestic competitors, fine, but I guarantee you I'll be better. Like, acknowledge it up front and just let that be known, and let it be known that you're willing to make it worthwhile. I'm not going to say it's going to work every time, but I think that's a lot better than just, hey, can I apply? Yeah, I don't live in the United States. And then it's immediately from their end like, oh boy, this is going to be complicated. There's a lot of paperwork. Whereas if you come straight up and just say, I know it, I'm going to say it right now, I'm an international student. I know that makes it harder, but, or ask them, what can I do? Even though I'm international, is there anything I can do to make myself stand out and make it worthwhile anyway?
Okay, next question. In an application for employment, should we mention our hobbies? Let's say I'm applying for an engineering job, for instance. Should I mention that I enjoy bodybuilding, salsa dancing, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, you can, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with that at all. I think what you want to be careful about is coming across as, um, here are all the things I'm good at professionally, here are all the things I like. It's just like a big sort of list of me, things that I identify me. If you can use it to show something that you've created or something about your personality traits that's valuable, a way that you create value. So, for example, rather than, I have the following engineering skills, I like bodybuilding, and I like ice cream, something like, I'm passionate about engineering, I've done projects with X, Y, and Z, and it resulted in this. And I also, 3 years ago, got enthralled with fitness and bodybuilding, and I've entered 2 competitions. It was an exciting experience. I plan to do more. And you're sort of showing the results, not just kind of listing in bullet points. I think in those contexts it can be beneficial, and it's certainly not off limits. Those are places where people can often connect with you. But you want to be prudent about it. I think just listing a bunch of random stuff to make it look like you're a well-rounded person comes off as just that.
Okay, next question. I just folded my first attempt at a startup company. Is there a good way to put that in a resume as experience without the obvious implication of failing at something?
Yeah, and I don't want to get too much into resume questions because there's a slightly separate, so it's kind of a separate issue, and we will do, as I mentioned, a webinar on resumes specifically. But let's just translate the question to applications. Um, I think wear it loud and proud. Similar to what I mentioned about being an international student. Be upfront about it. If there's a place to list experiences or to talk about them, I think coming right out and saying, "Hey, I failed. I failed at a company I tried to start. Here's what happened. Here's why. This was the most amazing experience of my life. It was really hard. I learned a lot, and I'm not going to quit. I gained experience in X, Y, and Z, and I'm really excited to, whatever, put that into practice." I think that's fine. I think you can let that be known, and find a way to talk about that, because especially, if you're applying for a job or something, everyone sort of knows that that's a part of business, and that if you're willing to take a risk, there is the chance of failure. And what matters far more than someone who never fails is someone who fails and is okay afterwards. And if you can let that be known, not only are you okay, you're better. And you learned what you wouldn't do in the future. I think that's fine.
All right, here's a top voted question. How important are references in landing a job?
Um, yeah, I mean, references are really important, although they're sadly becoming decreasingly important. And they're really more important once you get a little bit further down the process. So, in the application itself, sometimes they ask for references and people might follow up on those. But they usually won't follow up on them unless you've sort of moved beyond the basic first stage of application. Okay, this person's good, they're interesting, they're worth pursuing, because it takes time to follow up on references. So they matter a little later in the process. Focusing again on applications here, yeah, you want to have them and you want them to be legitimate and to be solid, but they're probably not going to come into play right away. I will say it is, as I mentioned, references often, professional references especially, if you've worked at a place, there's all kinds of legal and HR hurdles to getting any value from them. And often if you call to ask on a reference, they'll just say, all I can do is verify their date of employment, and they won't even say whether the person was a good employee. So for that reason, I would suggest references besides just people you've worked for, because often they can provide a little bit more context.
Okay, the next question, Isaac. An employer gets so many applications. How do you attract an employer through the cover letter? And what's your take on the overall importance of cover letters?
Yeah, and again, I don't want to sound like I'm beating a dead horse, but to keep this sort of within the confines, cover letter is a slightly different animal, but let's again translate that to applications. If there is sort of a free-form area that's the equivalent of a cover letter, what's your story? Why are you applying? Something to that effect. Hugely important. Hugely important. And this is really the chance to do some of those things that I mentioned in the do's and don'ts, to do and to not do. And that is talk about the opportunity itself. There's nothing more useless than a cover letter that just tells a narrative version of a resume. I'm so-and-so. I grew up here, I learned a lot of things, this, that, and the other, and then I went and did this job, and I learned these things, and now I have these skills. I bring X, Y, and Z to the table. That's already listed in your resume. That's basic biographical information. I can go to your LinkedIn profile and see that. Why are you applying to this specific thing? Tell me that story. I came across your website. I immediately had to stop what I was doing and read every detail. It blew me away. I love your mission. I'm excited to learn more and understand how you execute it. That's what you use a cover letter for, or in this case, sort of a free-form area of an application to talk about why you are submitting an application.
Next question. In a career fair, once I start talking to a potential employer, what should I start the conversation with?
I mean, I don't want to sound like a cop-out, but it's highly contextual, and it's more of an art than a science, because now you're talking about kind of interpersonal skills and sales. So you have to sort of have a lot of self-knowledge and know who you are, what's your personality, what's your style, and not be sort of unnatural. Like, we've all interacted with people at events like this who clearly studied somewhere how you're supposed to network, even though it's not comfortable for them, for their personality, but they come up and they do it anyway, and it feels weird. So don't do that. But I would suggest starting with things that get people talking about stuff they're comfortable with and stuff that gets them excited. So, hey, you're talking to somebody who's there promoting a company. Hey, tell me why you like working at the company. How long have you been there? Like, tell me about what do you do there? Why is it fun? What's your favorite part about coming to these career fairs? What's a challenging part? What's something about your company very few people understand, or that's a common misnomer? What's one of the most common things you see in people who apply that just makes you laugh, right? Something like that that's interesting, that gets them talking about things of interest to them. I think that's far more productive than very basic biographical, when does the internship start? What are the requirements to apply? What do I need to do? Everybody asks that, and that's all available on the webpage. Use that opportunity to connect to that individual a little bit and get a little bit of their insight is what I would suggest.
Next question. You mentioned that one should always follow up after sending an application. How do you think one could creatively follow up when many job descriptions indicate that they do not want candidates to contact them?
Yeah, okay, so let me be clear about that. If it says we don't want candidates to contact us, then don't, right? But if you hear back on your application, whether you move to the next stage, whether you got rejected or accepted, then I think it's appropriate to respond with a follow-up immediately, thanking them based on what the response is, telling them you'll let them know or asking them for advice or feedback. But no, now after you click submit, if it says don't follow up, don't. If it doesn't say that and you know specifically an email address for somebody who will be reviewing it, it can be okay to say, I just want you to know I submitted my application. I know that it's in the process. I don't want to bug you, but I'm really excited. I would really only do that if you have met them at a career fair or something like that. But after you hear something on your application, that's when I would respond with a thank you or follow-up of some kind.
All right, Isaac, here's another one for you. If during an interview, the interviewer asks you about your previous job experience and wants to know if there was ever any conflict, should we answer it genuinely or be straightforward no as an answer?
Well, I think you should always answer it genuinely. Absolutely. I mean, if there wasn't any conflict at all, then say, yeah, there really wasn't any, and that's a genuine answer. If there was, be totally upfront about it. I mean, I've hired or accepted people who have even been fired from jobs. It's one of the questions I like to ask is, have you ever been fired from a job? And then I like to ask why. And anyone who sort of hedges it all or acts funny about even answering the question sets up red flags. But someone who owns it and gives the reasons, sometimes the reasons reveal that this really isn't someone we'd want, but sometimes it reveals, hey, this person worked for a crappy boss, and they're not afraid to admit it. I kind of like that. But again, that's interview stuff, and I don't want to get too far into there because I think there's some more sort of specific things that we can tease out for interviews in a future webinar. But yeah, I would throw that out there generally. And again, that may be a question in an application, and I would say just always answer it honestly and genuinely.
All right, here's another. If I find a person who's working for the company that I'm going to apply for, is it recommended that I mention I know them, like a reference from an internal employee?
If you actually know them or have met them somewhere, I think saying that's a great thing to include in something like that cover letter or that free form spot in the application. I met Sally at the whatever convention, and from talking with her, I got more and more excited about this. Or, I know from what Sally has told me, it's an amazing company. I think that can be great. That can be appropriate. Just name dropping, where you just sort of know someone's name, you don't really know them well, kind of randomly throwing it in there, I think can maybe look a little bit desperate. So if you actually have talked with them and know them, then absolutely. But don't do something like, Sally told me to apply, she said I'd be great, if Sally didn't really do that. Because don't forget, no matter how big you think the company is, the people there talk to each other. And so if you say something about another employee there and it's not verifiable or not true, just be aware that happens.
Isaac, what are some of the best ways you found to demonstrate or provide value for the employer, even at the application stage?
Yeah, I mean, so when I'm looking at applications, I guess the main things that stick out to me, first and foremost, are all the detail things right? And it sticks out to me because it doesn't stick out to me, right? If I notice any errors, now there's already negative ground to be made up. So, right, you almost want your application to not have anything about it that makes it go in that neglect pile or throwaway pile. So first and foremost, okay, I breezed through it and it looks fine. Nothing about it is scary to me. But that one thing did stick out. It said, the minute I saw this program, I knew it sounded amazing, and I wrote this blog post about why what you're doing is so fascinating and why I'm so interested in it. That signals to me, anything that signals that kind of passion and focus, again, like the dating thing. Now they're talking about me. And I love it when people talk about me, right? We all love that. It's positive attention. They're praising my company or my program or the thing that I'm working on. And not in a cheesy, fake way. I think those are the things that stick out. And so when you find, there's a limit to how creative you can be. If it says, were you referred by a friend? And in that box, instead of saying yes or no, you say, oh my gosh, I want to work at this company so much, here's my website. Maybe that's a little bit weird, but anywhere where you can find a way to talk about the opportunity itself, not just answer questions. It says, why would you be a good fit for this? And you just say, because I am this, that, and the other thing. You could use that opportunity to say, because you are, because your program is, because your company is, all these things that are awesome that I connect with. That's, I think, a great way to stand out. And again, if you make a little 1-minute video of yourself telling me that verbally and link to it, I think that's pretty cool too.
Isaac, here's another online job application question. Are the online job applications on the company website really taken into consideration, or is it mandatory to have a reference to get into a company you like? I've applied online to some positions 1 month back, and I have not heard back from them. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. First of all, yes, they absolutely are taken seriously. However, the odds that you are going to get a job just from that application alone are incredibly low. Not impossible, but incredibly low. So if you apply for 1, 2, 10 and don't get don't hear back from any of them, don't be surprised. It's just the way it works. I mean, when a company is hiring, it's because they've looked internally and they've said, we don't currently have anyone on staff who can fill the following needs that we have. We're going to have to, does anyone know anyone who can fill those? Maybe, I'm not sure. Okay, well, let's create a job position, a title. Let's put it out there, and maybe we'll find someone. And they put it out there, and they get a bunch of applications from people that they've never met before through the website alone, but they also get, hey, so-and-so heard about it, you should talk to them. This other guy knows them, right? And you get that kind of network effect, and that's the first place the people who are hiring want to look, because there's way fewer variables. There's more verification. There's more knowledge there. You think about working with someone, it's not just the skills they bring to the table, it's, do you actually like them? Do you like being in a work environment with them? There's a lot of time you're going to spend together. And anyone who's already connected with somebody else there kind of meets some of those minimum requirements already. Okay, well, so-and-so gets along with them well, so they must not be that far off our company culture. So you're obviously fighting uphill battle. You have to do a lot more to stand out in that generic application pool than from when you have some kind of network. But it doesn't mean it's not taken seriously. I mean, most jobs, the reason they put them out there is because in their immediate circles, they couldn't find anyone just by word of mouth. So they had to do that. And then it's kind of a race, right? Whether the sort of can identify someone quicker than a really good person from outside. So anyway, short answer, you shouldn't be surprised that you don't hear back, and you probably won't most of the time. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't continue to apply. The thing is, applying should never be seen as, there, I did my work. Oh, I'm looking for jobs because I'm filling out applications. That's something you have to do, but that's not going to do it alone. You also want to be looking for those connections, asking around, letting people know the kind of things you're interested in, the jobs you're looking for connections at those companies, putting lots of irons in the fire at the same time. Okay, let's take one more question.
One more. Okay. So how important is industry experience for an internship? And if I don't have one, how do I tackle it?
I mean, it depends on the internship, but most internships are not looking for specific industry experience that much. That's really the area where you're going to gain that industry experience. What they might want, if it's in a very specialized thing, I mean, if you're going to intern for an accounting firm, for example, or an engineering firm, they want certainly a level of knowledge and interest very specific to that industry. And if you can demonstrate that, a level of acumen and skill. But in many internships that are more general, even there's not even a really specific skill set that's being looked for. It's more about, what are you bringing to the table in terms of, hey, I'm the person who's going to roll up their sleeves. I'm going to be excited every day to come in, to do anything it takes, because I'm so excited about your mission and what you're doing. I want to learn. I want to do anything. There's no job that's too, grungy and too grunt worky for me to sink my teeth into. And and I'm really excited about this opportunity. I'm somebody that's not going to be high maintenance and not going to annoy you, right? You don't want to say that, but you want that to come across through your application. So internships, typically, if you can convey that level of passion and interest specific to the opportunity you're applying for, and you can not just tell them I'm a hard worker, but demonstrate somehow, show things that you have done and created and completed that show that you can get things done and create value. You know, I started this micro business and launched a website and sold 500 t-shirts, or I did put together and organized an event at my school and got X number of people to apply. I put together this newsletter, something that's tangible and you can demonstrate that you know how to create value and finish things. And that passion, I think, is often what's being sought in that internship. All right, let's end the Q&A there. If you do have additional questions, and especially if you have questions about Praxis in particular, or anything related to there, obviously check out our website first, because remember, don't ask questions that can be answered on the website. Check out the website first, but you can always contact us, info@discoverpraxis.com, to learn more. And if you have more questions, discussion about applications in general, feel free to jump on our Facebook page, or you can email us as well, and we can take a look at those. But we will also be having more of these webinars on things like resumes, on things like cover letters, and interviews, some other professional development things. So hopefully this has been helpful. I appreciate everybody tuning in tonight, and look forward to the next time.
And if you'd like to share this webinar with a friend, you can find the recorded version of it at our YouTube channel, youtube.com/discoverpraxis. Have an awesome week.